just coming home today. So God bless America, the USA. 21 guns.
My brother Jay Smalley, welcome to the show. How are you? How is the family?
Everybody's good. Hey, we're all one day at a time. You know what I mean? One day at a time, and ain't committing no crimes.
One day at a time, ain't commit no crimes. I know that's right.
Exactly.
Man, well, thank you for being our special guest here at the Veteran Kettle podcast. We want to thank you for your service and thank you for your time today. It may be helpful to someone who's younger, trying to pursue a career in the military, or somebody who just needs to be inspired. Because I know through our relationship, knowing you probably almost 20 years, how
Yes, sir.
inspired, I have been. And for that, we thank you.
Thank you.
So, since we talking about inspiration, my first question is, what inspired you to join the military?
Uh, what inspired me to join the military is having some type of vehicle. You know what I'm saying, to pursue educational goals and also be able to travel and experience some other geographical locations in the United States, and have some aspirations with music. And at that point in time that I joined, I felt like that was the best option to pursue all those different initiatives. As far as, like I said, music, education, employment, and at the same time, developing some type of trade acumen. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it was just a good move for me, and my family had been, marketing the Coast Guard to me since I was in high school, and I wasn't really feeling the military because I grew up in an army town in Oklahoma around the army, and I was like, I'm never doing the military. But at the time frame that I was thinking about joining the military, I was working two jobs and going to college full time at a Nazarene University in Oklahoma City, and it just seemed like the right, decision at the time, based on the circumstances. And I did have a high school sweetheart I dated for 2 years out of high school, and that didn't work out. And so I was like, you know what? I don't have nothing to lose. My grandparents have been marketing this to me since I was in high school. Yeah, that's my story with regard to why I did it. I also had a grandfather that cared about me and had some wisdom, and was kind of like a dad to me as well, because my parents were separated, and I came from a broken home, and so he kind of guided me that direction. And like I said, here I am now, retired 20 years later, with a bachelor's and an MBA in music business, and I'm working at FedEx.
Absolutely, that is wonderful. So you said that you went to boot camp. How was that experience? Do you remember what boot camp was like for you?
Culture shock. Unfortunately, I do have a story, with that. My my mother, when I was in boot camp, decided she was going to try to commit suicide and took some pills.
Oh
And I
no.
was in boot camp, unfortunately, and I had a decision to make. And my grandfather, that passed away about 3 years ago, said, "Hey, everything's going to be all right. Um, still stay in there and do what you need to do. Your mom's going to be all right." She didn't do that because I went to boot camp. She just was going through some, emotional and had some mental instability issues going on, and she did that, and I bit the bullet and stayed in boot camp and braced it. You know what I'm saying? So looking at it now, I mean, all that whole experience is artificial stress anyway, and they're trying to weed out, the weak from the strong. And there were some prior service members that were in there as well. They couldn't tough it out either. I mean, Coast Guard does have a very stringent boot camp experience, but I made it through, you know what I mean? And then I ended up getting stationed right back at boot camp because my ship that I was stationed on was right there. So everybody was laughing at me, talking about you coming back to Cape. I was leaving boot camp and everybody's laughing at me like, you got to come back here. I'm like, I know, to a ship. So I did boot camp and came right back to it to go on a ship that was stationed there. So yeah, it was kind of oxymoron, you know. It was just like I was trying to get up out of here and I'm coming back, you know. But it was a whole different experience because I was on a ship that was stationed on the base, and yeah, I mean, it was different because I'm on a ship that's stationed on the base, but you can still hear people, you know, across the base that are in boot camp marching, you know, and doing the regiment stuff. You know, I mean, you go over to the galley and go to the kitchen and eat, and you might be eating with recruits or see recruits and things of that nature. So it was kind of like surreal, like, you know, I just was here and now I'm back on this base watching people do the same thing I did. You know what I mean? So, I mean, again, it's an experience, and I can't explain it enough to anybody. If they don't go through it, they don't know what it feels like unless they go through it. I could tell you all day about it, but you got to go through it to feel the experience. I'm be like, hey, this is how it is, but you got to go through it. You know what I mean? So again, artificial. It's artificial stress. That's what it is. It's not what the reality is. But when you're in there, you're thinking like, dang, what the hell did I just sign up for? You know what I mean? Yeah, you're like, what did I do? What did I do? You know, and then you get on the ship and you're doing some entry level positions like, you know, mopping floors on the ship, and you know, making
Okay.
salads on the, you know, on the what they call the mess deck, and you're on the, you know, you washing dishes. You feel like you know, work at a restaurant, and depending on, you know what I mean, depending on your level of performance, you may or may not end up in there for the long haul. You know what I'm saying? Till you make, so, you know, you graduate boot camp, you might be an E2, you might be an E3, go to a ship. If you're E2, E3, you know, until you make some type of specialty, or, you know, you go to school, or, you know, get what they call rated or, you know, you're in a certain job position, designation, you know, designated. Yeah, you're going to be, you know, washing dishes and swabbing decks and lowering boats and standing helm lookout and stuff, all that type of stuff. You know what I mean? So I have a different walk of life just based on the fact that I was a striker. I striked. I did on the job training for my specialty. I could have went to a school for my specialty, but I felt like while I was on the ship, I might as well take advantage of the time. And I ended up doing on the job training and gaining my specialty that way instead of going to school, which would have been another duty station or another assignment for me. So I have maybe one or two less assignments than my colleagues that I either one served with or they retired or, you know, whatever. Um, I ended up not doing as many assignments based on the fact that I did do on the job training, and that is a little bit tougher than going to a school and learning how to do a job with open book tests and things of that nature. So
Yeah.
um, I was more of like a legacy, but the program I was in wasn't standardized, and it didn't have like specific curriculum. It was really based on what assignment or, you know, duty station you were at, you know, where you were stationed at, on how they wanted to run it. So anyway, I stayed down and dirty, and I made I made logistics specialist, or what they call a storekeeper in the Coast Guard. In 3 years, you know, I was E4 in that time frame, where most people would end up going to school and then, you know, making that next rank or promotion after they left the ship, and I did it while I was on the ship. I spent 3 years on the ship as an E2, E3, and E4. You know, so did 3 years, and I made what, E3 and E4. I promoted two ranks off that ship and went to a, you know, duty station, filling a position that was actually a rank higher than I was. I went to an E5 position as an E4. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, that's phenomenal, bro. Like, you're doing a lot, getting a lot of stuff done.
Yeah,
Um,
you know, and I wasn't perfect. You know what I'm saying? I got reprimanded for being late to the ship, and I had some adversity with some superiors, because of just being in a old legacy military service and people having different mind frames. I wasn't exactly fitting that specific mode, and I was fortunate. I had some angels on the ship and some security on the ship that was looking out for me as a young buck, and so I did kind of evade some of those situations where people thought I shouldn't be doing this or doing that, and they were doing me dirty. But I learned a lot of stuff on the ship, or learned a lot of stuff in my first duty station about being, taking care of myself and being, my own advocate. Because at the end of the day, you got to represent yourself, and nobody's going to look out for you but you. You know what I mean? Regardless of what you do in life, ain't nobody gonna look out for you like you do.
That's right. So your first unit, Jay, do you remember what your first unit was, and what was that experience like? You were saying that you learned a lot of things from.
Well, I was on a ship for 3 years. You know what I mean?
Okay.
I was on a ship. I was the only biracial, or not to even go into demographics, but I was like the only ethnicity in my department for the first 3 years I was there.
Okay.
It was a predominantly Caucasian department, which doesn't matter to me because my dad's white and my mom's black. So it's just something I noticed, and there wasn't the demographic on the ship wasn't diverse. You know what I'm saying? It was predominantly Caucasian, and unfortunately, I don't think that way. But some of the senior leadership that was on the ship, they did operate, in a way that was indicative of being, biracial. You know what I'm saying? So either way, long story short, my first unit did have some challenges, and I overcame some of those, and I did have some mentors. I was fortunate to have some mentors on the ship, but at the end of the day, I had a common goal. And you know what? I didn't have the score to go to A school to go be a storekeeper, but you know what? I didn't let this stop me. And I was trying to get in logistics, and I found another avenue to do that. And like I said, I did on-the-job training, and my goal was to get out of the entry-level position I was in and get into something I like doing, because I did like what I was doing, but I really didn't like it as much as what I wanted to do. So I was like, what can I do while I'm stuck on this ship to get promoted and move forward? And so, like I said, I took the initiative to learn a specific field on the ship. And that's what I did. I worked with that department. I still did my primary job as an entry level, seaman. And like I said, worked my way up, past the little tests I needed to take to get to the next level and get promoted. And then after that, it was all, fireworks from there. You know what I'm saying? So my first 2 years, I spent entry level doing basic seamanship activities and performance. And then my last year was really my third year on the ship. That was the year I was in my specialty and like what I was doing. So, and then on top of that, I had a couple of different supervisors, a couple different colleagues and coworkers, and I was teaching them because they hadn't been on that ship before how to do the job on the ship. You know what I'm saying? So, um, my first ship, I didn't get no awards. I got no accolades whatsoever. Um, I did, come up off of there with some service ribbons and things of that nature, but I didn't get any accolades off of that. And some of that had to do with having lazy leadership. Nobody wanted to write nothing up on you. And like I said, I learned all my hard knocks in my first assignment. I enjoyed my ship experience, being on a ship for 3 years and going on, 14-day patrols for 30 to 45 days and going up and down, the East Coast all the way down to Grenada and Aruba, you know what I mean, in the South. I mean, I've been, Jamaica, Aruba, Grenada, Puerto Rico, I mean, I got to hit all them ports all the way up to Canada, Nova Scotia. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I enjoyed all my experiences all the way up there, and I wouldn't take back what I endured as far as my entry level position in the military. But at the same time, I learned a lot of my hard knocks from that, and it helped me in my my future. All I did was move up from there. You know what I'm saying? So my first duty station did instill a lot of values and instilled a lot of knowledge in me about how the Coast Guard worked. I learned a lot of my Coast Guard culture from being in my first assignment on a ship for 3 years. So
Yeah, that's great. That's great. You mentioned that you became a storekeeper. So for any young people that may be watching or anybody that's interested in maybe a career in the Coast Guard, can you explain like what you did as a storekeeper? Like what were things you did even from the beginning, like when you became a storekeeper, even throughout your career? Could you
elaborate.
a little bit, please?
Yeah, so I mean, a storekeeper is is an old term from the Navy and Coast Guard, and I mean, really, a storekeeper is a logistics specialist. You know what I'm saying? And the background of a storekeeper is accounting, purchasing, contracting. Doing contracts for the government for whatever assignment, or if you're a station two, a specific ship, you're buying all the supplies for it, transportation of freight. If they need things shipped out, you're doing that. Um, Inventory management, because they have parts that they keep on board that are actually evaluated as, or at least looked at as monetary. So it's like money. So you have an inventory of parts that they need to keep on hand in case something breaks down on the ship, mechanically, um, electronically, because they did keep circuit boards and things of that nature on there too. So I mean, it's every realm of what logistics is, with a little bit of supply chain, and obviously, like I said, you do a little bit of accounting and some type of reconciliation with accounts and budgeting and things of that nature. So I mean, pretty much all through my career, I spent a lot of time in purchasing and contracting boat parts to, I spent some time in aviation for 4 years dealing with aviation parts, purchasing, aircraft brakes, tires, any component that had to do with an aircraft, purchasing parts for it, to, maintaining a facility as far as janitorial products, doing improvement projects at duty stations or wherever I was stationed at, improving the facility flooring. So I mean, it was a gambit of supply and support needs. So my job, I mean, it's in a support position. I support the mission of the Coast Guard and whatever duty station I'm at, whatever it is they do, I support their mission as well as support, ensuring they have supplies so they can do their job. You know what I mean? I work with 4 pilots. Um, I worked for a supply officer, by myself, directly reporting to a supply officer. I worked for people outside of my specialty, but supporting, for example, a small boat station. I worked at a small boat station for 4 years in the Chesapeake Bay. You know what I'm saying? A small boat station supporting a master chief, boatswain's mate, and a chief boatswain's mate that ran a search and rescue station. And I have nothing to do with as far as them responding to search and rescue cases and boarding vessels and things of that nature, but anything to do with the boats they drove, to the facility they maintained, to cooks that cook for the crew and things of that nature. I supply supplies to every spectrum, from
Every
cooks to,
spectrum.
yeah, I mean, cooks, engineers, they need engineering parts, to the individuals driving boats to go search for a dead body out in the Chesapeake Bay or go find somebody that's stranded or whatever. So while, my position was not, I guess you could say, the most popular position, based on the fact that, you know, some of your colleagues that don't do the same job as you or might be the same rank as you don't think you do as of important as a job, but you
Okay.
support what they're doing. And you know, like I said, uh, at the end of the day, we all have the same goal in mind. And the job that I had has actually helped me, you know, pursue avenues outside the Coast Guard. I could very well go get a, you know, GS-12 position or GS-11 or GS-10 position working at the federal government doing the same contracting job I did in the Coast Guard. You know what I mean? Purchasing parts and purchasing, which I didn't decide to do, but it definitely provided me the credentials and training, and I still have the expertise. It's just a matter if I would ever decide I want to go back to the federal government and do the same thing I was doing, I can do it as a civilian too. So
Yeah.
definitely some excellent expertise that you can use on the outside. It wasn't like I had a job that did not translate to a civilian occupation. I spent my last 6 years as a recruiter in human resources, and that's a human resource role. So now I work at FedEx doing human resources. You know what I'm saying? And I work at the HR role at FedEx, uh, dealing with a lot more than I did as a recruiter. But I have 5 years or 6 years as a recruiter that contributed to the position I do now, where I'm doing, you know, workplace investigations, I'm doing career retention, I'm doing hiring,
Yes.
um, career development. You know what I'm saying? So I have the job I did that was just recruiting was a job that ended up catapulting me into a position I have in civilian sector, doing way more, a lot more flexibility, get paid just as much to do, you know, a lot more. But like I said, and on top of that, obtained my bachelor's and my master's degree while I was in the Coast Guard, and they paid for it. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
My GI Bill paid for my bachelor's, and I got the public service loan forgiveness on my master's degree. They forgave $78,000 of my master's degree because I did 20 years in the Coast Guard. You know what I mean? So
Yes. And what was that called? What was that called? The what?
public service loan forgiveness.
Public service loan
Loan
forgiveness.
forgiveness. During COVID-19, a lot of people weren't paying student loans, but they allowed a loophole for individuals that did do public service that were in the military to apply, and they wiped $78,000 of my student loan debt out.
So I'm sure that is still available
It
for.
is, yeah, it is. It's still available. Public, they have that, and I think they have a teacher's public service loan forgiveness too. Yep,
Teachers public
yep.
service loan forgiveness as
Teachers,
well.
yep. They have a teachers, and they have a military or just federal public service. Yep.
Yeah.
They have teacher. They have one for teachers and one for military or federal. They have a federal public loan forgiveness, and they have a teachers. Two different ones.
That's amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, we're gonna make sure we put some links in the description for that so people can
Yeah.
go and check that out. What piece of advice do you have for a young person that may be thinking of a career in the military?
I would say that they would need to evaluate, well, you know, their options with regard to whether they want to pursue student loans, things of that nature. If they thought college might be a fit for them based on their grade point average, and if they don't think they have the grade point average, uh, do they think they can go in the military to pursue, you know, a trade? And then at some point, maybe they could, you know, look into getting back into college and using the benefits that they have, or you know, in the military. So,
Yeah.
you know, it's really depending on what, you know, what their goal is. You know, unfortunately, uh, uh, a lot of teenagers that are thinking about the military don't want to go because they have some type of interest in a female, or they have, you know, some other aspirations, like, you know, creative, want to be into music, or they want to play, you know, sports in college and things of that nature, or they don't want to leave their friends and family and stuff like that. So, you know, at the end of the day, it's really about what is your primary goal at the end of all of this, and where do you see yourself in the next 10 years, which is like a common goal for a lot of people. Like, what's your 10-year goal, long-term, short-term goals, stuff like that. And, stability, so job security, stability. A lot of kids don't know that, at some point in time when they're not under their parents', medical coverage, they will have to have medical coverage after 26. And yeah, so, I mean, there's a lot of different factors of why people join the military. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't want to join the military either. I grew up around it all my life. I was around the Army in Oklahoma, and I was like, I'm never doing that. And most of my family has been in the Army. Nobody in my family has ever been in seagoing service whatsoever.
Never say never.
Hey, except me. That's it. My dad was a Marine. I'll take that back. My dad was a Marine. My dad's father was in the Army, and my mother's father was in the Army. I have a couple of uncles on my mom's side that were in the Army. Everybody I know has been in the Army, period.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever went to the Navy. And like I said, my dad was a Marine for 3 or 4 years, and that's it. Other than that, nobody in my family is seagoing on my mom's side whatsoever.
Okay.
So I never had aspirations of even going into the military. And I'll be honest, when I came in the military, I thought I was going to do my 4 years and get out. But
yeah.
here I am, 23 years later, I'm retired, and I'm 43.
Yeah.
So I got 3 paychecks coming in a month. And I'm not saying that to be bragging. I'm saying I have all those benefits coming in because I earned it. Yeah, I'm just saying it's all based on what your aspirations are, short-term, long-term, and job security.
Absolutely, I agree. So what piece of advice would you have for any active duty members who are preparing to separate or retire?
Well, me being a recruiter, if you're deciding to separate, I will highly just suggest you go into the Ready Reserves, because what I experienced from my recruiter career is a lot of the individuals that do get out, they have families. They find out if they get out and they get a civilian occupation or career, the insurance is a lot more money. The Coast Guard's insurance is cheaper, even if you're a reserve. I think it's like $226 for a family, and like maybe $86 if you're single. But insurance is cheaper, and then you're building up a second retirement. You know what I'm saying? You're building a second retirement if you do part-time, what we call reserves. If you're doing part-time Coast Guard, you get, you're building a second pension.
Yeah.
So that's my takeaway from that. And it really depends. I mean, I really don't care if you've done 4 years or 10. I mean, to me, it don't matter. I think if you have the ability, if you put 4 years in the Coast Guard and you have the ability to serve part-time, do it, because you're building, it's like, like a second pension. And they obviously, their pay structure is different because it's all based on how many points they get, and they get a certain amount of points based on how much active duty time they get. So it's not like me and you doing active duty for 20 years. They have to build points up. So I would just say I highly recommend somebody to keep that going part-time. And if they have a family and they're trying to maintain some decent affordable insurance, do reserves.
And that's for that's for those who are separating.
That's for those who are separating. Yeah, if you've done 4, 8, 10, whatever, however many years, do part-time and maintain your retirement points and benefits.
That's right.
And
so for retirees, what kind of advice would you have for anyone who's preparing to retire?
if somebody's preparing to retire, make sure that you follow whatever the pre-discharge program is for the VA as far as getting your medical record in, even though that program's not seamless, meaning that, they may not process your documentation until you get out, but as long as you get into them as early as you can, and, if you're in a position that they don't handle it in a timely manner, obviously there's some avenues like doing a congressional or contacting your local senator in the county to escalate, the situation. Unfortunately, COVID-19 did put like a damper on some VA benefits processing. If you're my bad. I don't know why I did that. I said if you're retiring, and you can edit that out there. I said if you're retiring, make sure that you have some credentials when you get out. I don't know, everybody's at different stages in their life. If you got a bachelor's degree, good. If you're pursuing a master's, try to finish that up before you get out, because the master's is the new bachelor's. Obviously, do your homework. Get established with LinkedIn, that professional networking site for getting jobs. They do offer a premium membership for people that are getting out of the military. It's like a year. You get like a premium membership with LinkedIn for a year. That's definitely a good avenue to pursue career field outside the Coast Guard. And then other than that, just making sure that you're prepared for, paying survivor's benefits for your wife if you have a spouse, because that's $150 for a certain amount of years. And then ensuring that you transition your life insurance over to veterans life insurance, or getting a life insurance policy when you get out. And that's pretty much it. Insurance, medical coverage, making sure you're credentialed when you get out, make sure you do your retirement physical and all things you need to do so you can submit your medical record to the VA and get rated for disability. And that's pretty much it. The tools are out there. You just got to make sure you use them to your advantage.
Absolutely. Excellent advice. So how do you spend your days now that you're retired, and what keeps you active? What keeps you busy?
I've got 3 sons. I got a 17-year-old, 11-year-old, and a 4-year-old. My 17-year-old's 4.1 GPA. He plays basketball. He's in AAU, competitively. Obviously, he has a social life. I got 11-year-old, A's and B's. You know what I'm saying? He's in 6th grade. Got a 4-year-old. He's getting ready to go to first or kindergarten. And they're all very active, and they play sports, so they keep me, active, no doubt. Family events, and I do DJing on the side, and I still do, I'm into music, so I still produce and record, and work with my brother who's like 2 years younger than me on music. So I'm always got something going on. You know what I'm saying? I have neighbors. I have some wonderful neighbors in my neighborhood I stay engaged with. So. I'm not going to say I'm a busybody, but I'm always active. I do work out still, even though I'm out of the Coast Guard, because I can only imagine if I didn't work out for the last 20 years, how big I'd be. So I'll still work out, take my vitamins. Other than that, I'm just maintaining my life status quo, or like I was before, if not better. You know what I mean? So I have children that keep me motivated and active, you know what I'm saying? So I'm just happy to wake up every day, you know what I'm saying? At the least, wake up every day and take on a new day, you know what I mean?
That's right.
That's it. I'm just happy to wake up. That's it, at the least. Not because I'm glad I can pay my bills. I'm glad I bought a house 8 or 9 years ago, So again, God's good. God has allowed me to stay busy. You know what I'm saying? I'm always staying busy.
Yes, that's right. That sounds amazing. Shout out to the family, staying positive, staying healthy.
Yes, sir.
Everybody's doing amazing things, phenomenal things, man. That's what we always love to hear. This is the bittersweet part. This is the last question.
Yep.
What would you say is the most important lesson that you learned from your active duty military career?
To look out for yourself. Ain't nobody gonna look out for you other than you. That's out of my career. Ain't nobody gonna take care of you like you do. Period. That's the thing. That's the primary thing I learned. I hate to say it. People don't always have your best interest at hand, and I'm not saying that's everybody in the world or anybody you work with, but at the end of the day, you're your best advocate or represent yourself in any situation. and don't be, or don't hesitate to advocate for yourself or brag or speak about your accomplishments and things of that nature, because that could be the, end all be all for you when it comes to being competitive. And we do live in a competitive environment. And so, like I said, you got to be the best person you know how to be, and represent yourself when it warrants it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I learned primarily from my career. Look out for you, because ain't nobody else gonna look out for you but you. You know what I mean?
Once again, thank you, Jay Smalley, for being our guest today. Thank you for your service, your time, sharing it with us right here on the Veteran Kettle podcast.
I appreciate it. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? Hey,
Yeah,
whatever little information we can get out to people about making some educated decisions about their life. Everybody's in a different walk and stage in their life, and have different aspirations. But at the end of the day, everybody needs to be educated on what they can and can't do, and make some intelligent decisions. You know what I mean?
absolutely. I absolutely agree. And on that note, that's all we got. We want to thank y'all for joining us today. We will catch you next time right here on the Veteran Kettle podcast.
So just coming home.